We're going to have a little bit of fun. It's a repeat guest, a great friend. I have on the line Tony Stevens. He is one of the founding members of Foghat. So, Tony, you're with us, right? Woo!
Hello, Mrs. Doubtfire here.
You can tell this is going to be a little bit of fun. So, Tony Stevens, he's an English born blues aficionado, gained fame with the Savoy Brown Blues Band in 1968 before co founding the multi platinum rock band Foghat. His music career has been a journey through rock and roll history, from hit TV and film projects to forming bands like Nobody's Business and Midnight Flyer. Tony's performances alongside legends like Bob Seger and AC/DC showcase his musical prowess. After a stint in acting, Tony reunited with Foghat in 1993 and released new albums with original members. Today, Tony Stevens heads an electrifying blues rock ensemble called Tony Stevens' Slow Ride, featuring former members of iconic bands. You won't want to miss their explosive live shows filled with classic hits and soulful blues. It's a performance that will leave you wanting more. Today, Tony's here to share some exciting news about Record Store Day, which is April 20th, the Saturday, where Foghat's Permission to Jam, live in New Orleans, 1973, will be released, and also just released Foghat Slow Ride live in concert, which gives us an undistilled Foghat recorded and filmed live in Texas in 1999. So with no further ado, can you hit cut one, Evan? It's Tony Stevens. How are you doing, Tony?
All right, my darling, and how's Smiling Bob?
Smiling Bob is doing well. He's our
That's good.
our
I'm
listener
glad
in
to
Polk
hear.
City. Yes. So you're over here stateside, over from England for a few weeks, and have a lot of things going on with Foghat, right?
Yeah, well, I'm waiting to find out what the day is of the National Record Store Day.
I haven't.
Because what happened was in 1973, we closed this big club in New Orleans called the Warehouse, and we played there for 2 days. And I found out that they had taken a two-track recording of the show, and they've turned that into an album. This is Rhino Records. They've turned it into an album for the National Record Store Day. I think they're only printing maybe 1,000, maybe more. I'm not sure. It depends on, I would imagine, the demand. But it was quite interesting because I haven't heard it yet. And then what we were playing and how we were playing in 1973 is different than the obviously the album that's been released or re-released, the 1999 Millennium Tour DVD. Which comes with a CD as well. And that Rod had left by then, and it was Dave's, really his last tour before he passed in 2000. So really it's a tribute to Dave. That's what I'd like to say, because he had 6 months of chemo before he came back with us, lost 100 pounds in weight, lost most of his hair. But he came back and just rocked the house, as we say, in Houston, Texas. And so really, to me, the whole thing that they've released it now, it's called Foghat Slow Ride Live. Thank you very much. So in principle, yeah, they've just, Cleopatra Records have just released it on the 5th of April. So it should be in the shops, or you can actually download it probably through Amazon, or you can buy it through Amazon, and
You can,
possibly in
Tony.
your record stores as well.
Yes, you can. You
Please.
can find it everywhere. Let's jump back 1 second to the Record Store Day. We're going to talk about both of these issues. But Record Store Day was conceived in 2007 at a gathering of independent record store owners and employees as a way to celebrate and spread the word and the unique culture surrounding nearly 1,400 independently owned record stores in the United States and thousands of similar stores internationally. The first Record Day store took place on April 19, 2008. Today, Record Store Day is celebrated at independently owned brick and mortar record stores around the world. It's going to be April 20th, 2024, and you can find a store near you at recordstoreday.com. Recordstoreday.com. And locally here we have Vintage Vibes in Stewart, Sounds Good Music in Port St. Lucie, and Anagalopolis in Juno Beach. So again, if you go to recordstoreday.com, you can find that record, Foghat. Permission to Jam, live in New Orleans, 1973. So there's a lot of great songs on there, right, Tony? And I know one of
Yes.
them.
I'm looking forward to hearing it because I haven't heard it yet. Well, I remember the place in New Orleans, the warehouse. I remember them. We said to them, we don't want any money because you are closing and you're being really good to us. So they just went overboard in kind of like looking after us, beautiful hotels on Toulouse and Bourbon, limousines everywhere, food everywhere. And we didn't have to pick up, our wallets. Didn't have to put our hands in our pocket. It was all taken care of. So it was great. So I think it was Bill Johnson was the owner of the warehouse. And I think he had something to do with ZZ Top as well. Either Bill or his partner either managed ZZ Top, I do believe. So it was just great. Now I'd like to hear, I'm waiting for it to arrive, the album. I'm told it's quite frantic. It is the original band. And I'm looking forward to. It's a shame there's not a video of it because it would be good to see how slim we were in those days. What clothes we wore and how fast we played.
Well,
frantic,
right.
I think is the word.
Well, Foghat formed in 71, so this is 73, so you were just 2 years into a lot of great music that was yet to come through Foghat. But one of the songs, I want you to talk about it, Evan, if you can cue up number 2 on the album is Fly By Night. Evan, if you can play a clip of that.
I'd like that because I wrote it.
I love it. So, Tony, tell us a little bit about that song, Fly By Night.
Well, it's really it's like a journey on the road. Now the funny thing is, Casey, is that Dave and myself in Savoy Brown were not allowed to write. Mainly it was Kim and Chris Yalden. Now, Chris Yalden, my favorite album of Savoy Brown, apart from Looking In, is Raw Sienna, because that really was all of Chris writing and some fabulous songs. But Dave and I had the opportunity when Chris left in the last year of us in 1970 was a Looking In album. And so I wrote Poor Girl and Dave and I wrote Leaving Again. So that was our kind of, and Dave wrote a couple of things with Kim. But it was the same situation with me with Foghat. I contributed to a few songs throughout the first 4 albums I was on. I made my contribution in the songwriting and in the playing, obviously, in all of them playing. But it wasn't till Energize, till they turned around and said, okay, and I played them Fly By Night, and they said, okay, we're going to stick it on there, and they did. So that was really my first full song writing and music, apart from, as I say, Step Outside, which I actually wrote most of that, the music, and Dave wrote the words for that. But
that's fantastic.
No, it's just really Fly By Night is just a tour on the road. It's just things that happen to you on the road. It's I think it's self-evident in the words.
So folks,
without going into massive detail, Casey, it's self-evident in the words. You can make your own mind up.
So
Really, it's one of those songs. But
this
it really is. It's touring on the road.
this song is again going to be on the release this Saturday at Record Day, Record Store Day 2024. So that's
Yep.
fly by night. Know that Tony Stevens is not only the bass player there, but he's also composer. And great song. You can find all these songs at the local record store. You can look at Amazon, Spotify, Apple Music, all these
Yeah.
things. Tony Stevens slowride.com is where you can look up. Tony has a plethora of music. He has got quite a repertoire and a huge library of music that you've worked on over the years. So there's always a place to go find them and find out where you're going to be playing next. You mentioned
Usually in the gutter
no,
with a bottle of Smiling Bob's favourite tipple, which is Château Feet 99. So he's probably kind of like hooked up to that right now, dear old Smiley Bobby.
yes, Smiling Bob. Too bad you couldn't
Like
call
with a
in.
big grin on his face. Aren't you, Smiling Bob? Yeah, I can almost see that grin.
Little IV drip of that. That sounds about right.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Hey,
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, over the years, it's been obviously doing my own solo album. That was a real plus for me because it's only just me. I employed the musicians to come down and play for me. I'll play, obviously the songs in the way that I wanted to hear them. They put their own feeling into it, but it was the way that I wanted them. It's difficult when you're in a band because four people are all kind of like vying to put their pieces in that respect. But when it's your solo stuff, you've got that kind of freedom to say yes or no. It doesn't go down to a quorum. It doesn't go down to, 2-3 or 3-1 or whatever. When it's your own situation, you're paying for it. You get what you want.
Well, Tony, you have one of your albums that I absolutely love. One of my favorites is "Don't Blame Me" and the bass player, and that is all your own work on that one.
Yeah. Well, there's only three songs which I did cover. One was "Under My Thumb" by the Stones because I love that song, but I did it in a dance mode with a kind of like a
Oh, it's fantastic.
synthesized bass running through it. So it really, became a dance song. The other one was written by Curtis Mayfield, done by Major Lance, and it was called That was the title, about 6 ums. And the last one was Sail on Sailor. That was a Beach Boys from the Holland album, which again was one of my favorite songs. And it's just Americana. It really kind of like it's where I was. A lot of American bands out there which I like, but the Beach Boys at that specific time just kind of like did it for me with Sail on Sailor. Plus many more, but that was the one that I wanted to do. I found it very easy to do.
Tony, you mentioned "Poor Girl." I'm going to have Evan cue up a snippet of that, and then if you would just talk a little bit more about that. That was when you were with Savoy Brown. If you can hit it. Man, that is just good soulful rock and roll, Tony. I tell you what, kids these days, they're missing out. I'm telling you, I love that. So tell us a little bit about that "Poor Girl." I think we have some people
Poor Girl,
jamming.
again, was from the Looking In album, Savoy Brown's Looking In album. And that was like the first opportunity that I had plenty of songs in my book at the time, but not allowed to kind of like bring them out onto the record. But because when Chris left, obviously Kim was looking for basically songs from Dave and myself to fill the album. And Dave wrote a couple of songs with Kim. He wrote "Leaving Again" with me. I did the music, he did the words, but I did "Poor Girl." It's really in the nicest possible way about the girls that like to hang out with groups. I could call them
The
groupies, but I
groupies,
won't
right?
because they're
Okay.
nice girls that hang out with groups. And if you listen to the words about, living in a one-bedroom flat and, a rattlesnake round her neck and, big boa type thing. And this is how they used to dress up when they used to come and see the band, especially in California at when we played the Whiskey A Go-Go. It was just amazing. It was just... But Frank Zappa invented a group of girls called the GTOs, and it meant girls together outrageously. And that was from Frank Zappa. And it's true. He had, Miss Cinderella, Miss So-and-so, Miss So-and-so, Miss Lemon Drop, all these girls that used to come to nearly all the shows, Savoy Brown or Foghat, Led Zeppelin, just anybody that was in town, the GTOs will be there. And Frank wrote about them.
Tony, I want to go back to the other release we talked about at the top of the show, and that's Foghat's Slow Ride live in concert. And this was recorded and filmed live in Texas in 1999,
Yeah.
just before the lead singer, Dave Everett, who
Yeah, he
you've talked
passed in
about
2000. Yeah.
just at a young age of
He,
56. I
he'd
mean,
spent 6 months, in chemo prior to that in 1998, going through a kidney cancer, and he lost a kidney. And then he came back out. I mean, we didn't even know if he was going to do that tour, but he said, "Okay, yeah, listen, I'm going there." And when he came through the door, as I say, he at the studio where we were rehearsing, he'd lost 100 pounds. Hair was very, very short then. And we had a new guitarist, which he knew anyway, because Brian Bassett had played with Dave in another Foghat going back into the 80s, the late 80s, when there were two Foghats, Roger's Foghat and Dave's Foghat. So Brian played with Dave. So Dave said, well, let's try Brian. Brian came in and he knew all the songs. Boom, it was done. And then we went on tour in 1999. We got Dave's gold Lurex suit made for him. I was in blue, like Little Boy Blue. And we just kind of like rocked the plaza. I think there was about 3,000 kids in this square in Houston. And it was great. It was a really, it was Dave's swan song, really. Before he passed in February 2000, and his wife also died from cancer in December 2000. So it was a sad year in that respect. But it was just the memory of Dave from 1999 as that trooper. He's a star. He really is, and I'm glad it's reissued with a different cover. It's this big steam train on the front. But I'm glad that it's reissued because it really, for the kids that weren't around in 1999, 23 years ago, hopefully it's an introduction to Dave and his work, and people can go back from that. But most of his songs are on that album anyway, on the new, Foghat Slow Ride Live. So, like Slow Ride, Fall for the City, Stone Blue, other good songs of Dave's are on the album. So a lot of people might say, well, I've heard that song. I heard Slow Ride in Top Gun Maverick, but I didn't know who sang it. I didn't know who did it. Now they can see.
folks, that's right. We are talking with Tony Stevens. He's one of the founding members of Foghat. We're talking about the new release, Foghat Slow Ride live in concert that was recorded and filmed live in Texas in 1999. And you're going to get a lot of great songs on there. Slow Ride, Fool for the City, Rock Your House, Stone Blues, Driving Wheel. They're all on this track list here, and you can find that on Amazon, Spotify, iTunes, and of course Cleopatra Records. So really exciting that they are re-releasing this. But what's special here today? Tony's been on the show before, but what an insight we're getting into the world of rock and roll, traveling, being out there, having these concerts that were in England and Europe and the United States. Tony, tell us a little bit about some of your travels and some of the memories that kind of
Well,
you
just one
enjoy the
thing,
most.
Casey, is what the listeners are getting today is the clean version of the
Because we're on air.
rock and roll journey that
Yes.
I've been through. It's a clean version. It's the nice kind of like home version that Granny and Granddad
Tell it to
can
your
listen
mom.
to, and the children, the babies in the cot won't kind of like have you
Tony,
know
it's a good thing
upset.
my mom's tuning in too. So,
I love your mum. Mummy, big kisses to Mummy and to Smiling Bob as well.
right.
But I've lived in different places, I came to Florida obviously we had played Florida before throughout the 70s and the 90s, but I've never lived in Florida. In that particular time coming up to Florida, I lived in South Africa for 2 years because my ex-wife is South African. So we lived in Cape Town, which is beautiful. That was around about 1990. I went to Japan for a year. I was studying martial arts, and I went to Japan I had a Japanese girlfriend. Then I came to Florida basically for Dave's funeral in 2000, and I liked it where I was staying in New Smyrna Beach. So I bought a condo there and lived there, then sold the condo, bought a house, and lived there. And then basically I just said, right, I'm time to go, time to leave, time to get on that slow ride train, and went to Thailand. And in Cape Town, I played with all the black musicians there, and I had a few basses that my sponsor, Warwick, had given to me. And so I took some over with me to Cape Town, and anybody that didn't have a guitar of their own, because a lot of them were very, very poor, I gave them a bass and said, okay, there you go. Just enjoy, And but Thailand, I put together my own slow ride in Thailand with a Thai drummer, an American guitarist who won B.B. King Awards for the blues. We had a singer from the Philippines, Mary. She was great. Our singer, our drummer, who sang as well, sounded like Sam Cooke, and he was great. Robert Cray, he loved to play Robert Cray stuff. And myself, I do the kind of like Foghat and rock stuff as well. So we had a really nice combination for a few years there. And then it got to the point where there was only 2 seasons in Thailand, hot and hotter. Hot and hotter. 110 in the daytime and humid. In the evening, 85 degrees and humid. And what I really missed was 4 seasons and snow. So in 2000, I think 16, 17, I came back to England, and it was around Christmas time, and I got a wetsuit at home, and I laid in the snow and did snow angels because I missed the snow, and it was great, So in principle, yeah, I mean, it is a journey. I'm in Florida now, staying with my friend who is a doctor, Jeff, and his girlfriend, his partner, artist. And I'm off to, I actually I did a food fest last Saturday, and I sang Sweet Home Chicago and Wanna Make Love at his food fest he's got a band as well called Rock Logic. Very good. Then I'm off to North Carolina tomorrow to stay with a guitarist friend who's got a gig coming up on the Saturday, and he wants me to sing there. So we're going to do Wanna Make Love and whatever. And then I'm coming back to New Smyrna, where I used to live, and seeing all my friends that I met and made friends with years ago, and then do a ton of karaoke. Anything from George Michael to Snow Patrol to Green Day to whatever, I sing it all.
People
I
are gonna
sing
want
it all.
to people are gonna want to catch you out and about, Tony. So you're kind of
No,
here on
no,
the
wait
Treasure
there.
Coast, and
You've got to say it like you were living in Foghat, oot in a boot.
oot in the boot.
Oot in a boot. Well, that's Scottish as well. Oot in a boot, see you, Jimmy. Oot and out, yeah, a boot. They say that in Canada. But yeah, I'm going to be out and about up in North Carolina. Then I'm coming back down to here to Rockledge. Well, no, I'm going to be staying up in New Smyrna near Ormond. Kind of like doing some karaoke, staying with a friend, and then after that,
You might be popping up in the Treasure Coast. We don't know. So
yeah, could be fun time
Tony
with
Stevens.
Casey and Smiling Bob.
That's right. Tony Stevens is a lot of fun. He comes here to the States. If you're looking to book him, he's got his band over here, and I'll tell you what, it's a great show. You gotta love the music. We're gonna end the show about a minute out. We'll start playing a little bit more that. Megan loves, and it's just fabulous. We opened the show with it. We'll close the show with it. Tony, it is such a pleasure to have you, and I have so many other stories I want to cover, and we're running out of time. And
I hope I haven't bored your listeners.
not at all, not at all. We got just a couple. What do we got? About 30 seconds here, Evan.
Okay,
Real
done.
quick. There's one cover that I love to point out, and that's Sammy Hagar. He's wearing a red suit, the Red Rocker. Whose red suit is that?
That's mine from Granny Takes a Trip. Yeah, he came over after he left Montrose, and he stayed with me in my place in England, him and his wife, and he was doing a photo shoot for that Red Rocker, and he saw my red suit in my wardrobe. He said, "Can I borrow that? Because everything's going to be red." I said, "Go for it." And there it went.
If you're tuning in,
Sammy the Red Rocker with Tony's Red Rocker suit.
if you're tuning in today, you're hearing the backstory. This is Tony Stevens. He's founding member of Foghat. Was a Savoy Brown. You can look him up. Tony Stevens, Slow Ride.
Thank you, darling.
Take care. Mom says hi, by the way, Tony.
I don't want you.